Yo guys, what is going on? Welcome back to another video on the channel. Boys, also, everybody watching today, we're going to have two videos today. There's a lot going on FIFA. So we're going to have another video tonight, so stay tuned for that. It's also going to be pretty important. I mean, most videos we post are for your entertainment or important, but also going to be a super informational video. This video is going to be very informational as well. Today, we are going to be talking about two Player of the Month cards that are going to be coming out probably in the next 48 hours. That's my assumption. I don't know exactly when, but 48 hours would make sense to me. And the two players are Nkunku, who's playing insane in real life this year. He might get the most special cards ever in FIFA. And Mbappe. So these two players, guys, have been confirmed and leaked to get Player of the Month cards. And they're a pretty big deal. So we're going to start off first with Nkunku because I think his card will most likely come first. I actually think there's a really good chance it'll be today, which is a Wednesday, but mainly also we're going to be talking about Mbappe in this video. So let's talk about it real quick. When we're talking about a player like Nkunku, you know, for me, obviously, this is a very meta card, right? Like, people really, really like this card in FIFA. He did have a Player of the Month item a couple of months ago, and this card, you know, was pretty expensive. It wasn't cheap to do. A lot of people have actually managed to get this card out of the year-end review SBC, which is pretty cool. He was 240k. I've seen him in a lot of pro teams. He's probably a little bit outdated now with the likes of Paqueta and Fofana that have been introduced. He's got a headliners on the market currently that's a live card that's 315k, which is interesting. It'll actually be really, and that's also down a lot. It'll actually be really interesting to see if his next upgrade maybe will jump the Player of the Month. I'm not too sure how that works, so be on the lookout for him if he starts playing really well in real life after this gets panic sold. That would be interesting. Or if it'll be the same. I'm really not too sure what will happen. But yeah, so Nkunku, his first card was 240k. You know, his 89 on the market is 315k. I would assume that EA is not going to give him a +2. I think that it'll just be a +1. So I do think Nkunku is probably going to be about 300k. I think EA will release it at that price. I don't know the exact rating / leak, but I think 300k to me is sounding like the price that is about right. And I say that because, you know, his live card is 315k, but his live card has been, you know, going down because of the anticipation of this card coming out. And so it's down about 150k. So people on the market for months now have been paying about 400 to 500k at least, maybe even 600 for this Nkunku Player of the Month because, you know, he's a player that he's very good on the ball in game. Like, dribbling is very good, and he just kind of gets it done in game. He's a bit more of like an attacking kind of Conte with, you know, maybe potentially a little bit less defending, but he's very, very good in game. So a lot of people also like him because, you know, you link him in a French team. So I do think that that's going to probably be about the price point that you could expect. You know, in the current market, for a type of player like that at that price, you're probably looking at a similar price point where they're going to probably do, in my eyes, you know, you're probably looking at like maybe an 86, an 85, and an 84. You know, if you had something like that, you had 135 plus 93 plus 57, you know, that's actually, you know, a really solid value at that point. You know, that's about 250 to 300k. And, you know, EA may come out and underprice some of these SBCs just for the reason that it's very possible with an under price point that fodder will actually go up. That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking there's a chance that with an Nkunku Player of the Month and an Mbappe coming, that there's actually a really strong chance that, you know, because of these cards being so important in meta and people's teams, that they'll actually rise the price of fodder. And so that, you know, it's probably better for EA to undervalue these SBCs. But then again, you know, something that EA are very aware of, you know, in this game is that people are able to get fodder right now through the foot swaps program, through the player picks. So I think EA also always take that into consideration, guys, because they know that you know, you're able to get fodder quite accessibly in the game if you just kind of log on and do some of these daily SBCs. I mean, I think EA know that. So that's also sometimes why when we see Ramos at 560k, I'm not really surprised because gone are the days where cards are coming out at like a base value and that's what it is. People always have cards they can unlock. There's multiple objectives a week. There's just a lot going on in FIFA that there never was. So whenever I see EA kind of overpricing an SBC, I always take into account that they're probably assuming 5 to 10% you can knock off with stuff in your club. So Nkunku Player of the Month is the one I'm expecting first. It should be a really good card. Next up, we've got Mbappe. So this one is obviously a large deal because Mbappe is probably the most meta player in FIFA. You know, for everybody's sake of every different play style, you know, whether you play Mbappe as a striker or you play him out in the wing, Mbappe is not only one of the best in real life right now, but also one of the best, if not the best, in FIFA as well. So I'm expecting Mbappe to be quite expensive. Now, the rumor that's come out is that he's a 94 rated. That's what everybody's been saying, and that would make sense because if we do take a look at Mbappe's special cards, he has a 91 gold, a 92 inform, a 93 inform, and then a 95 headliners and a 97 team of the year. So for me, a 94 makes sense. In the grand scheme of things, I think that does make sense. So it's very interesting because once you get to the 93 after the 92, Mbappe has maxed out pace. You know, so for me, I really feel like Mbappe's not that different once you get to the 93. And so that's why I think the price of this SBC is going to be really interesting. And I'm going to say this because I think this 94 Mbappe is going to potentially be endgame because I just don't know if you're really seeing that much of a difference from a 97, a 95, and a 94, right? When you take a look at the 93, you compare that to the gold, right? Okay, the gold has 93 finishing and 83 balance, right? And those are probably like the downsides, maybe the shot power. So let's take a look at the 93. 95 finishing, 85 balance, right? So you're talking +2. So, you know, this card is going to have +3s, if not +4s on the gold card. So I think that's a very significant boost. And I always say about the second or the third inform of a player in FIFA is always extremely relevant. It's always a card that you're going to notice like a pretty game-changing upgrade to. So I'm looking at it thinking, okay, that this card is going to be really good as a 94. And probably worthwhile if the price is right because of how meta Mbappe is, and obtaining an Mbappe, you know, untradeable in your club is a big deal. Now, the way that you usually see these Player of the Month SBCs kind of panning out, guys, is that they're usually available for about 30 days, which is why I think that, as I said with Nkunku, I think that EA is going to make these just a tad more expensive than you would expect. And that's because they're knowing that, you know, this is 4 weeks of upgrades. This is 4 weeks of rewards. This is 4 weeks of, you know, maybe more swap stuff going on, maybe objective cards, right? They understand that you're probably going to obtain, if you start to work towards that Mbappe, at least 30% of the knockoff price in the next month. We've not really had an Mbappe SBC yet in terms of a Player of the Month, but we have had some other pretty crazy SBCs that I did want to go back to. And so in FIFA, this is in FIFA 21, but also in FIFA 20, we had a Messi Player of the Month. We had one in both years, I believe. And I'm liking my own YouTube videos. Wow, I'm so cool. So Messi got a 96, and this is when his Team of the Year was already out. A lot of people did this card. He was central. And what you can notice about this Messi is his dribbling is almost perfect, and he's got maxed out finishing. So this interested a lot of people when it did come out. And when you take a look at, you know, what was really required of this Messi, you had an 89 and an 88, and an 84, an 85, an 86, an 85, an 88, and 89. So you had, I think, 7 or 8 total squads. Now, I think EA will most likely drop an 89 rated squad. I think for Mbappe, they will probably do that. I would be surprised if they didn't. And the reason why I'm bringing this up to the table, guys, right now is that I feel like Messi is a very comparable player to price point and leverage. Now, what I do remember about this Messi, and if we go look at FIFA 21 SBCs, this is very easy to do, by the way. You go on Footbin, you go to FIFA, you go to SBCs, and then you can choose like expired, currently active. Messi was close to his market value at the time, if not more expensive than a lot of his specials. But that was because, as I had told you, like EA understood the situation. So let me see. Okay, so we go to Lionel Messi, right? And he had 2 SBCs. Obviously, if you played FIFA towards the end, we had a 5-star skill PSG Messi for about $1 million, and he was insane. But, you know, you're wondering, why is this Messi cheaper than this? It's about the time of the year, right? Towards the end of the year, EA really stopped giving an F and just dropped crazy SBCs. So the main price of this card, and obviously people's reaction was very expensive, right? You can see it fluctuated between 1.7 and 2.05, right? For me, for an untradeable Messi, that was actually not a bad value, because if you look on March 10th, right? Let's take a look at the price of Team of the Year Messi on March 10th. So on March 10th, Team of the Year Messi was 3.9 mil. So this was 2 ratings less, but it was offered at half the price in a different position. You know, that was definitely something of interest for me. And to be honest, compared to the Team of the Year, it really wasn't that different. So we are in a very similar situation. And the thing is, I feel like Mbappe is quite similar to Messi in the way that Messi's left stick dribbling in FIFA is so good, right? Even the gold. So you're not going to notice that much of a difference. The main Team of the Year difference is going to be the physical. And I would say the same thing with Mbappe this year. But Mbappe's gold physical is insane. So I don't really know if the Team of the Year is going to be that much more noticeable, you know, than the Player of the Month. And I think it would be nice to kind of obtain that untradeable player of the month card. I think he would be usable for the rest of the year. And then in FIFA, what happened? Oh, I don't know what happened. What's going on YouTube? Okay, and then also in FIFA 20, we had a Neymar, guys, and I wanted to point this out because I thought this was like also quite similar. And this was a left-wing Neymar. I think this card was also around 1 million coins, when it was released. It wasn't that large of an upgrade. It actually might have been like 2 mil. Because you guys know, I love Neymar in FIFA. I didn't even end up doing this card. So this one might have been a little bit too expensive. But the main thing you can also see, and if I could show it, am I being an L content creator? Am I being an L content creator right now? I wanted them to show you how long it's available for. But the main thing is that, it's available for a long time. And you can see that this Messi was released when? Friday, March 5th, and it ended April 5th, right? And towards the end, it was 1.6. Listen, this was available for 30 days. So that's like a very large factor that I have currently for this potential SBC. For Mbappe, the fact that you're going to have potentially 30 days to go ahead and complete this is a big deal, right? And that's why the initial reaction of when you see it be very expensive, it's for a reason. It's because there's time to do it. Now, the first inform was 1.4 and is now 1.05, right? And the second inform was like 2.2 and it's now, I believe, 1.8 is the price, or at least around there. He was around there. I don't know if he's going, he might have bounced back up a little bit. But I think that, unless EA make this SBC way too expensive, like 2.8 or something, like, a mil more than the market, I actually think the panic selling on Mbappe special cards is quite warranted, because I think the market is going to lose a lot of demand for Mbappe specials. I think that just these cards are going to be less relevant, for that 30-day span. So in the case where EA released this SBC and it's 2.8 mil or something, for Mbappe's player of the month, you're going to see Mbappe special cards rise back up because people are just going to decide, hey, you know what? That's too expensive for me. I just want to get someone off the market. It's really not that different. If Mbappe's anywhere around like 2.2 or less for this 94, all these specials are going to be the same price, if not go lower, in my opinion. Now, regarding the gold, right? The gold was like 600K this weekend. I traded it yesterday because it went all the way down to 450 when it got announced, and then he went back up to 500, and I took the money. He's still around 480. Now, the gold is quite an interesting one. Golds this year kind of just go down, but I would assume that whenever the leak is of the actual day of the SBC, that this gold is going to go even lower again. It's 480. I could see it going back to 450, and I actually think there's going to be a period of time where this gold potentially goes back up to 500. I think a lot of people selling him, the difference between the gold or the special is that, I'm thinking this gold is going to be a fourth of the price of a player of the month, Mbappe, and a lot of people are going to realize it's just out of their price zone. So wait for some more panic on this gold Mbappe, because I do think there's going to be a time it's going to be very good to buy this version. I think that this one will go back up at some point. I think a lot of people are going to realize, what's going on there. And then, I don't know, they haven't added the Headliners Plus filter yet, but the Headliners is also down a lot. This one is interesting. I'm less interested in the rebound on this one just because I feel like at that price point, it's going to be quite similar to this card. So this card is live, but, you also have the Team of the Year dropping a little bit. This one is down at 5. And you guys are probably also wondering, why would people panic sell an Mbappe Team of the Year for a 94, one that's 3 ratings less? And I think what you have to say and think of is like, he's already got the maxed out pace, and people want to try to move towards an untradeable Mbappe a lot of the time. People like untradeable cards. So that's really the main reason. So I don't really think this Mbappe Team of the Year is going to rebound. I had Messi's Team of the Year last year, and man, like for the whole year, he just kind of went down. That's kind of what happens with cards that, are no longer in packs. They just lose a little bit of that kind of like new value, and that's what goes on with players. Even, for example, like this Foot Birthday Suarez that I've been using, he's now 840, and that's because he's not as like new anymore, right? So people aren't as into him, even though I love him. He's just not as new, right? So he's starting to drop every week, and that's going to keep happening, right? These cards that are not in packs, they keep going lower. Yesterday we had UCL marquee matchups, which definitely probably brought a little bit of supply to the market. You can see that Oblak is like 56K. Usually when Fodder's really high, he's around 70. Regarding this, I think there's a chance that Fodder could go up. I just think that, you should, if you want to do a club stock with Fodder, you should wait probably until there's like, a mass pack supply. We have been getting lightning rounds on Wednesdays a little bit, which is today. So they've been doing that with new team of the weeks during promo. So I would expect today we'll get some lightning rounds. So stay tuned for that. I think that will happen, and that will definitely impact some of that a little bit. And other than that, yeah, I mean, I'm expecting, I think all in all, probably a value of an Mbappe player of the month to be probably around like 2.5 mil, around there. 2 to 2.5 mil is what I'm thinking. If they make it higher, it's not worth it. Just buy one of the informs. But again, as I said, like even if it is closer to that 3 mil price point and it may not be worth it, it still may be quite intriguing to start to work towards. And, you know, that's why I think there's a lot to be excited for with this Mbappe Player of the Month, you know, upcoming. I know for sure is that I'll definitely think about it, right? Because my major issue with team building and a lot of things recently is that I just feel like a lot of the time now I'm just kind of throwing all my untradables into these gambling lottery SBCs that I know are not even going to make my team better. So, to be fair, an Mbappe Player of the Month would make my team better for quite a long time, right? Unless I packed his team of the season or packed one of his crazy cards. So, I think for me, it probably would be worth it because Mbappe would be right on my team and just kind of upgrade this gold. So, we're going to kind of evaluate that, and we'll see what happens in the next couple of days, guys, when these cards do come out. Thanks for watching my video, and I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.